தோகா வங்கியினுடைய முதன்மை அதிகாரி டாக்டர் சீதாராமன் அவர்கள் தமிழ்நாட்டைச் சேர்ந்தவர். கடந்த 25 ஆண்டு காலமாக தோகாவிலும் அதாவது மஸ்கட்டிலும் வங்கி பணியிலே பல்வேறு பதவிகளில் இருந்து இப்பொழுது தலைமை அதிகாரியாக இருக்கிறார். தமிழ்நாட்டிற்கு பல நல்ல காரியங்களை செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறார். இங்கே அவர் தோகா வங்கியினுடைய தலைமை அதிகாரி ஆன பிறகு பம்பாய், கொச்சின், சென்னை என்று 3 இடங்களில் தோகா வங்கியினுடைய கிளையை தொடங்கியுள்ளார். இது அவருடைய பெரும் முயற்சியின் பலனாக கிடைத்துள்ளது. அவர் இந்த மாநாட்டினுடைய இந்த கான்செப்ட் ஆஃப் தி வேர்ல்டு தமிழ் எக்கனாமிக் கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸுக்கு தொடர்ந்து முழு ஆதரவையும் தந்து வருகிறார். அவர் இப்பொழுது உலகம் முழுவதும் இந்த பொருளாதார நிலை எப்படி இருக்கிறது, அதனுடைய வளர்ச்சி, சவால்கள் அனைத்தையும் இப்பொழுது ஒரு சுருக்க உரை ஆற்றுவார்கள்.
மதிப்பிற்கும் மரியாதைக்கும் உரிய இந்த விழா நாயகன் என்னுடைய நண்பர் விஆர்எஸ் சம்பத் அவர்களே, இங்கே அவையிலே பேச்சாளராக அமைந்திருக்கின்ற அரங்கத்தில் இருக்கின்ற என் இனிய நண்பர்களே, தமிழன் என்று சொல்லடா, தரை நிமிர்ந்து நெல்லடா என்ற வார்த்தைக்கு இணங்காக உலக நாடுகளிலிருந்து வந்திருக்கின்ற தமிழ் இதய நெஞ்சங்களே, பெரியோர்களே, தாய்மார்களே, உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் முதற்கண் நன்றி கலந்த வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேளீர் என்று பூங்குன்றனார் சொன்னது போல, உலகத்தினுடைய எந்த பாகத்திலேயும் தமிழர்கள் கொடிகட்டி பறந்து கொண்டுதான் இருக்கிறார்கள். மாறி வருகின்ற உலகம், இந்த உலகத்திலே ஏற்படக்கூடிய சந்தர்ப்பங்கள், வாய்ப்புகள், சாதனைகள், சோதனைகள் என்று நாம் அலசி பார்த்தோம் என்று சொன்னால், நண்பர் மகாலிங்கம் சொன்னது போல, the global economics is redefining in its form and substance. IMF has clearly said sustainability is getting challenged. That's why even after 10 years of global financial crisis, advanced economies are grossly underperforming. Emerging markets like India or China, who are the economic engine of the incremental growth, is slowing down. Global sustainability is at stake. It was 3.1% for this year, possibly 3.4% for the next year. Even after 10 years of financial crisis, the liquidity crisis has moved into a funding crisis, funding moved into a solvency and sovereign issues. Extraordinary set of changes and challenges we are seeing in the global sustainability. How do we eradicate extreme poverty? How do we bring in gender equality? How do we make sure environment sustainability, not only economics, it's convergence of ecology and economics, it's economics. How do we make sure we interconnect the world, interdependent world in terms of economics? How do we build the global partnership? That's the mission. And that's why we have redefined the Millennium Development Goal as Sustainable Development Agenda. And that's what we are all engaged in. Within the definition, how India is faring, how Tamilians can come together, that's the form and substance of today's or next 2 days of this convention. As Mr. Mahalingam has outlined, the global economies of advanced economies within the economics of developed countries, it's not going to be not more than 1.7% for next year. That's the same as good as 2019. America is said to be recovering. They started printing money way back in 2000 Eight, by printing the money, improving the liquidity, increasing the money supply, the hot money was transcending borders, stocks were coming up, housing market, which were under depression, was coming into a level playing field. An extraordinary set of market recovery was seen, and they start cutting the interest rate from 2015. This year, in 2019, they thought it's a wrong decision. They were started unwinding the money supply, and they thought it's not the right decision. They have to cut the interest rate instead of increasing the interest rate. That's the kind of contradiction we are seeing in the monetary policy. If America can print money, Bank of England can print money. European Central Bank can print money. Japan was invented by Abenomics. Japan was also printed money, and again, they were pulling out from the technical recession. So the central bankers were ruling the world. The technocrats were using the tool called accommodative monetary policy and inflating the world, and that was it. There was no alignment between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. The central bank devised the monetary policy, and the finance minister, the politicians, designed the fiscal policy. They have to be aligned. Then we have sustainability in prospects, and that's not the case. The global trade, if you look at it, it should be, in an ideal situation, twice the GDP. If global economics, in terms of overall growth, is around 3.1%, as I said, the trade should have been 6% plus. What has happened is extraordinary. We have reported 3.6% as merchandise trade. That says it all. If trade is not moving, investments are tilted towards one direction, that's in the fixed income. People are looking for safety and security. So fixed income, especially US Treasury, was booming. And stock market was inflated around the world. It was not a reflection of the economic stability or financial stability. It was overrated in terms of price-earning multiples. And we have seen world over, stock market was upbeat while the economies were grossly underperforming. That's the kind of extraordinary set of situation we are in. So the challenges are real. In terms of global challenges, what we need to articulate is how do we improve the global trade? We have seen between two largest economies in the world, America and China, they are in retaliatory measures in terms of tariffs. That has destabilized the global flow of trade, services or merchandise. We also have a bigger challenge in terms of making sure the universal norms we are committed in terms of Trans-Pacific Partnership was rescinded by Americans. Global trade itself is now contentious between the developed world and developing world. North American free trade policy was challenged again by America. Essentially, there's a distortion in the global trade. When it comes to global warming and climate change, COP21 was the design which was widely accepted. There was absolute convergence between politics and economics. That was also rescinded again by Americans. America is no more engaged in climate change global administration. Essentially, they were out of the equation. In the process, we have economic convergence to economics is not happening. And that's why rising sea level, increasing temperature, animal extinctions are all visibly showcasing and distracting the global economics. So essentially, we are in an unequal world where politics and economics is not converging. That's the message I want to give you. Unless you have a principle-centered governance in enforcing these commitments, you are not going to build a world which is sustainable, and we are not going to create a world for our children and grandchildren which is prosperous. We need to understand these changes or challenges are not ordinary. That's why knowledge dissemination is important. Coming together and evolving a cohesive convergence in terms of politics and economics is an essential prospect. And that's what we need to understand. G7 has become G8, G8 has become G20 today. Essentially, we are trying to make sure we will converge in terms of overall policy framework. And we have enough reasons to believe we are in yet another meltdown. If phase one of the meltdown was 2008, when we started printing money, that was phase two. When we started unwinding the money supply, that was phase three. Now we are getting back into a global technical recession. That's what the reality is all about. We can be cautiously optimistic. I was attending the International Monetary Fund meeting in Washington a couple of months before in October. The same October last year, we were projecting nearly 4% economic momentum. It was revised downward when I attended Davos in January this year in Switzerland. The spring meeting in Washington, again, the global economic decision was indicated as a likely prospects of 3.6%, revising downward from 4% was a possibility. Today, we have asserted that our growth was less than 3.1%. So if we have to move forward, if we have to move upward in terms of overall economic momentum, we need to create again, back again, a globalized world. From globalization to anti-globalization or economic nationalization is killing the prospects of global economics and global sustainability and financial stability. And that is the need we need to recognize. So how do we make it happen? We need to build this partnership in making sure people power become ultimate. Social inclusion, financial inclusion becomes ultimate. People revolution becomes ultimate. Recognizing the world which is unequal to make it equal in terms of global citizenship is a must. And these are ordinary phenomena, but the same thing, extraordinary impact in terms of commonhood. When you aim short term, you cultivate flowers. When you aim at medium term, you cultivate trees. When you aim at eternity, you build humanity. And that's what the need is all about. So within the definition, I live in a place where 45% of the world oil, 25% of the world gas comes from the Gulf states. Again, the Gulf states are now going through a division. The GCC states, as we call 6 states put together, right from Oman to Kuwait, now is broken in terms of policy alignment. While we have macroeconomic similarity in terms of policy makeup or social justice or freedom or functional democracy, they have a differentiated vision and conception. That is disturbing the unity of Gulf states. The financial markets are nothing but gambling grounds. Oil, which is a major import of India today, if you understand the dynamics of the changes, we have reasons to believe the oil price will reach again not less than $90 to $100 next year. The disruption between the OPEC and non-OPEC, and again, lack of convergence in terms of compliance, in terms of supply chain, is also a major stumbling block. Within the definition, India is still a prospect. When I read without any bias, there's no politics here. Unless you understand you live in an interconnected, interdependent world, we are grossly underestimating the global challenges. Indian economy is going through extraordinary set of changes and challenges. It has come down from the original prediction of 7 to 8% to today, 4.5%. Why? We live in an interconnected world. The sentiments have changed. The consumption patterns have changed. The digital governance has come in. Extraordinary set of financial inclusion India has achieved. Demonetization is a solution to long-term prospects of curbing the black money supply. The concerted vision to have financial inclusion, it means we should have cashless society. It means we have to bring in digital support in terms of demonetization. There are execution errors. We have to understand India is still arguably one of the best performing economies in the world. 1.5 million mobile users, over 1 billion internet users, over $1 trillion worth of economic expenditure for development expenditure, 110 new airports, 126 smart cities, 3 trillion e-commerce market, 550 million middle-class people. These are not ordinary numbers. These are extraordinary numbers. We have to understand that the dynamics and the structural advantage India has got cannot be underestimated. What we are going through is a temporary dislocation in terms of the global downturn. If global economics is going to be upward, if there is a convergence between politics and economics, global trade will improve, global investment will move, global banking will have financial stability, India will also move forward. Our market liberalization has worked. India is in the top 10 nations in terms of overall FDI. Nobody can deny this. India has issued over 100 billion worth of fixed income securities, sovereign as well as corporate bonds this year alone. So the economic sustenance of India is unchallengeable. Aiming at 8% or 9% at this point is not realistic. In purchasing power parity terms, 5 trillion economy by 2025 is possible. That's what we need to articulate. What we need to understand, even GST as a silver bullet solution is the right option. There are center state allocations which needs realignment, and that's, again, an execution learning. At the same time, in terms of global prospects versus Indian economy, India is in the right direction. Our policy framework is tailored to suit. We are integrating in line with the globalization. Our 175 gigawatts renewable energy production is not an ordinary mix. Our energy mix has to change. It means we have to move from conventional coal and fossil fuels to renewables. And that is precisely the reason this has been aimed at. I come from a country, Qatar, where we are supplying LNG to India, nearly 9 million metric ton. The energy mix has to move from 6% in terms of renewable to 15% in the next 3 to 4 years' time. Our import bill has to come down in terms of oil and gas. At the same time, we also have to liberalize the market space for the sectors where we have opportunities. We have over 20 billion venture capital funding was done in the last 3 years for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. So what we are witnessing today as a challenge for India is not challenges which are exclusive. This is inclusive in terms of a global space. In terms of global matrix, in terms of economic indicators, we are clear. Arguably, India will be the third largest economy by 2030. Our demographic dividend should support our policy alignment, which are reorganization in terms of market reorganization, should support. Our FDI should be relatively moving up in the right direction. What we need to understand is, again, within the definition of India, the politics has to play its role as a total affirmation of the economics. And that is what exactly we need to understand. Tamilians, again, my suggestion to Mr. Sampath is to recognize we can create a better digital advantage. It's not only a physical conference we initiate like this. I'm a party to the last 6 conferences. We need to move into creating the network through digital portals. Every single sectors, every single country has to, again, disseminate knowledge where there are opportunities. Tamil entrepreneurs around the world can come together and see, they share the information. From there, we start the collaborations. And that should reignite the space. We also have to understand, it's not only a one-time conference in a year, we need to have multiple levels of deliberations, all through video conferencing around the world. The time sharing can be initiated by a digital functional maker. We need to put our efforts, concerted efforts, to make sure that we reorganize our way forward, then this economic symbolic conference will have a deep-rooted commitment for a global prosperity for Tamilians. India, as a country, is globalizing it. Our literature has transcended borders. Our food habits have transcended borders. Our cinemas have transcended borders. Our value systems today, including yoga, which was endorsed by 167 countries out of 192 countries, is a testament for us to see through our heritage, our culture, our civilization is second to none. What we need to articulate is how do we make sure the economic precedes politics so that we produce gross welfare to the mass. And we are in a better wicket over the wall. In recognizing this century belongs to India, தமிழ் என்று சொல்லடா தலை நிமிர்ந்த வார்த்தைக்கு இணங்காக நாமும் வெற்றி பெறுவோம் இந்த இந்திய வரலாற்றிலே. அது மட்டுமல்லாமல் உலக பொருளாதாரத்திலே தமிழனுடைய பொருளாதாரம் மேன்மேலும் வளர்ச்சி பெறும் என்று சொல்லி வாய்ப்பளித்தமைக்கு நன்றி கூறி விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.